What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here, and today is an exciting day because Revit 2022 is finally out. The latest version of Revit has been released and it has some really exciting new features and functions, things like 3D grids, tapered walls, a whole new native PDF exporter, new improvements to RPC families, and much more. So this video is going to be an overview. We're going to be going over all of the the most exciting new features, and I'm going to be showing you how they work and what they look like and what they bring to the game. Now this video is going to be divided into a couple of segments. We have this introduction, then I'm going to give you just a quick rundown of all of the new features and functions, and then we're going to be jumping into Revit, and I'm going to be showing you in a practical sense how to use all of these features and how do they apply to your daily life and workflow when it comes to working in Revit. Now, before I get into that, I would just like to ask you to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com. That's going to be the first link just below the video in the description. There I have many courses for learning Revit, everything from a beginner level up to an advanced level. So there is something there for everybody. I have a whole 18-hour beginner to intermediate level course, and I'm just going to be updating this course now to include all of the new features and functions for Revit 2022. So if you're serious about learning Revit, it's a really good place to start. So as I said, just below the video in the description, check it out. Okay, so without any further ado, let's check out what's new in Revit 2022. Visually speaking, probably the most exciting change is the tapered wall. So now we have the ability to edit the vertical profile of the wall, and we can make it thicker and thinner alongside its vertical axis. So we have the ability to make individual layers either thicker or thinner along the vertical side of the wall. This is kind of really exciting. So you can have a wall that can be thicker on the bottom and then tapered off and thinner at the top. Also, with the Revit 2021, we had a new feature where we had slanted walls, but we didn't have the ability to edit the profiles of those walls. So when you slant the wall, you cannot edit that profile. Now, with the Revit 2022 release, we do have the ability to edit the profile of a sloped wall. Also, we have 3D grids. So with one of the previous versions of Revit, they introduced 3D levels, so you can see levels in the 3D view. And people were always complaining, well, they're not 3D grids, and it would be useful to see 3D grids. So finally, we do have 3D grids in Revit 2022. Also, another visual change is the ability to use new improved RPC families. So those are those, the tree families, things like that use images for realistic appearance. Now we have some new exciting families. We have some really cool car families, and you can actually change the color of the car, which I really like, so I'm going to be showing you that later on. And also another change to the RPC family is the ability to save it as a furniture family, so you can use it for example for chairs and things like that to have that realistic appearance. Another exciting graphical change has to do with the default color schemes for your rooms. So you can create color schemes to differentiate between your rooms, and that usually used some really bright kind of hardcore colors, and it tended to look awful when you create that. So with the latest release, we do have some nicer colors. They look better together. I think everything looks a lot nicer just by default out of the box. Also, while we're kind of in the floor plan view, we have the ability to turn off all of the non-core layers for walls. So in the visibility graphics overrides, we have the ability to turn off all of the layers for walls that are not the core. So you can basically turn off all of the non-structural layers, non-core layers, and that kind of gives you the ability to show off just the bare bones, the structural part of the building, or just the core of the building, which is also a nice new feature. Then moving on, one of the things that I'm most excited about, and that's the native PDF exporter. So far we used to have that option where we would go to print, and then there we would choose kind of a PDF editor or exporter, and then we would use that. And it was never native, it was never Revit PDF exporter, it was usually something else like Adobe PDF or whatever else you like to use. And that had many problems. Sometimes it would just stop and it wouldn't export your PDFs, and it was super annoying. Well, with the new version we now have kind of under the export features or options, we do have the PDF export, and it's completely native to Revit, and it does have many improvements that were lacking in the previous versions. So I'm just going to be showing you all of that a little later on in the video, but I think those are quite powerful improvements. They're going to improve the workflow a lot, especially when it comes to paper sizes. But as I said, more on that a little bit later on. Moving on, we have a new change to the parameters. So when you select multiple families that have a same parameter, and let's say that parameter is reporting different values for those different families, it would usually just stay blank. So for example, if you had 3 walls and you selected 3 walls of different lengths, then in your properties panel, the length parameter would just be blank. And with the latest release, it isn't blank, and it just says varies. So it's just a little different way of displaying that we have variable lengths for that particular parameter. Then moving on to annotation, there are some exciting changes. So for example, for tags, we now have the ability to rotate tags kind of to match the model. Also for tags, we have the option to add multiple leaders, so you can have one tag tagging multiple elements on your floor plan or section or whatever. And then also for tags, now we can finally tag mullions on curtain walls, which is something that wasn't available so far. Also, when it comes to annotation, we now have the ability to place a spot slope on ramps, so we can do it both in floor plan views, in sections, in 3D views, so that's something that's kind of exciting and new. Also, when it comes to dimensions, we had the ability to add a prefix and a suffix to a dimension value, but so far that was only an instance parameter, so we would have to override just the one individual dimension. Now with Revit 2022, we actually have the ability to set that up as a type parameter, so just in the type properties you can change that, add a prefix or a suffix, and all of the dimensions of that type will have that prefix or suffix. And finally, moving on to schedules, perhaps the most major change is the ability to split a schedule across multiple sheets. So if you have a really long schedule, it doesn't have to fit on one sheet. You can actually now split it across multiple sheets, which is really useful. Also, when it comes to schedules, now we can include shared parameters in key schedules, and also we can filter our schedules by family and type, which was something that was lacking so far, but now finally we do have that ability. So there you go, those are some of the most exciting changes. Now obviously there have been many more updates and many more improvements, and I decided just to kind of filter those out and just keep these ones for the video. These are probably the ones that are most likely to affect your day-to-day workflow, so I decided to cover those. I do encourage you to check out what else is new and something that's exciting. Now obviously I'm going to be jumping into Revit and just showing you in a practical sense what that looks like, what all of these new tools and features look like, and how do you use them. And please tell me in the comment section below the video what do you think about the new changes. Do you find them exciting, or are you kind of mad and you don't like the new changes and you would like to see something else new and in the latest version of Revit? So please tell me that. Also, before we jump into Revit, again, as I said, please check out my website balkanarchitect.com if you're interested in learning Revit in depth. Again, as I said, first link just below the video. Okay, so without any further ado, let's finally jump into Revit. And finally, here we are in Autodesk Revit 2022. Now, as you can see from the home screen, not much has changed, so it's the same environment that we're all comfortable with, and so let's go straight and start up a project. So I'm just going to go here to Models, and then let's go to New. And for the template file, I'm just going to go with the metric architectural template, and then let's click OK to get started. Okay, so here we are, and the first feature, or the new feature that we're going to be covering are going to be the grids. So far, if I just go here to the quick access toolbar and turn on a default 3D view, with the latest few versions of Revit, we have levels which are visible in the 3D view. This wasn't available before, and then in some of the previous versions it became available, and it's kind of the new standard. Now, a lot of people have been asking for 3D grids, and finally that is available here in Revit 2022. Now, something that you'll notice is that here in 3D view, even though these grids are going to be visible in 3D views, you can't really place them in 3D views. See, they're grayed out. So we still have to go back into level 1. We can go here to the grid tool, GR is the shortcut, and then we can place some grids. Now, obviously you can place regular grids, and then also you can go and use the either arced grids, or you can use a multi-segment grid, which is a grid that has multiple segments. So if you're looking for something like that, you can use that as well. So let's try something like that. Hit finish. There we go. And now let's open up the 3D view, and this is what we have. So as you can see, the grids will be available in 3D view, and when you highlight them like this, it's going to show you the entire grid. Now, at any point you can select the grid and you can kind of stretch it out if you require something like that. Same thing goes with this one. You can extend it up, so if you want to include a few more levels, you can do that as well. And then the same thing goes with these grids here. Now, the unfortunate part is the fact that it doesn't kind of pull the rest of the grids with it. So if I'm here in level 1, and if I decide to move one of these, see how all 3 will move? And if I do the same thing in the 3D view, well, it just doesn't do that. It will only move the 1. See? So that's kind of the downside of having the ability to edit that in 3D. But everything else, yeah, it looks really cool, and I think it is going to be a large improvement. It's a lot easier to track your grids, and it's a lot easier to now do the modeling part in 3D, as probably we all love to do. Now let's move over to the feature that you're probably all here for, and those are the tapered walls. I think it's such a cool feature, and I'm so excited that it's finally available, and let's finally explore it. So I'm just going to get rid of the grids that we have created because we don't need them, and then let's go into level 1 and let's place a small wall segment. So I'm just going to go here to the wall tool, and then let's go to the properties, and let's use the brick on metal stud wall. Now I'm just going to place a small wall segment like this project, hit the escape key a couple of times, and then let's turn on the fine level of detail as well. Okay, so in order to take this regular wall and turn it into a tapered wall, we do have to make some adjustments first. So one thing that I'm just going to do is change the top constraint from unconnected to level 2. And now let's make the changes necessary for the tapered walls. So with the tapered wall function, what's something that's new that has been added to the layers or to the structure of the wall, and that's that you can see here by selecting the wall, going into edit type, going to structure, and then going into edit structure, and that's this variable function here. So we have the ability to specify which wall layer we want to make variable along its height. So I can just go here to the structure layer, and then I can check variable there. What this is going to do, it's basically going to allow that layer to change its thickness, and that's going to allow for this wall to become a tapered wall. So in order to see this even better, let's go here into level 1 and let's cut a quick little section through this wall, just like that. Let's open that up. There we go. Perhaps turn on the fine level of detail just like so. And then I'm just going to undock this and then dock it here off to the side so we can see what's going on in the section here. And then here I'm just going to be working in 3D. Okay, so in order to turn this wall into a tapered wall, you have to select it first. And then here in the properties panel, if I scroll down a little bit, we have the cross-section parameter. It's at the bottom of the constraints parameters. And then here it's currently set to vertical. Now you can change this into slanted for a slanted wall. And then obviously we can change this into a tapered wall. Now, once you change that into a tapered wall, it has override type properties. So what does this mean? Well, by default, here, if I go into type properties, here we have the cross-section properties. So this is a parameter that can be set either by either as a type parameter, or it can be set as an instance parameter here. Now, for tapered walls, you're probably only going to be using them with instance parameters because it's not something like you have too many tapered walls in your project. It's usually just going to be a wall or two, so it makes sense to use it as an instance parameter. But keep in mind that you can obviously change that here as well. Now let's cancel out of this, and then let's override those type properties, and then you have a couple of angles to play around with. We have the exterior angle, and then we have the interior angle. So that means that you can taper it both to the interior as well as the exterior portion of the wall. Now looking at this wall here, this is the interior side, and then this is the exterior side. So if I just go here to the exterior and add a 2-degree slope, see how it kind of slopes out towards the exterior. Also keep in mind that here for the angles, you obviously don't want to go too high because this is a wall. You're never going to have like a 30-degree slope. So just be careful and make small adjustments. Now let's go to the interior side and let's add 3 degrees. See how now it becomes kind of tapered towards the inside. Now, as I said, only one layer that we have checked variable will change. In this case, that's the structural layer, that's this one here in the middle, and that's the layer that's changing its thickness. You can see that the other layers are the same thickness and they just adapt to the new slope, and that's pretty much it. Now you can even go towards the inside, so you can taper this in. So if I just use here -1, and then here -1, hit apply, see how now it will kind of taper down towards the bottom. Now, something that you have noticed here is that any changes that we make start from the top here. So this is kind of the tilt point for this wall. It starts off from here and then it tilts either towards the inside or towards the outside. Now you can actually change this. So let's select this wall. Let's go back to 0. And then let's go hit apply and go into edit type. Now here you have the width measured at, and here it says top. So as you saw, the top always stayed the same, and then the bottom changed, either making it thicker if we go plus in the taper angle, or it became thinner if we went negative in the taper angle. Now, if I change this from top to base, the base is going to be recognized as the level on which this is hosted. So that's this here. So if I apply that change, and now if I select this wall and give it a 1% taper, as you can see now it goes towards the inside. So the thickness stays the same here, but here it becomes thinner in order to add that taper. So it just changed that kind of fixed part to the bottom here. Now it can either stay there, or if I just, let me try something like -3. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, it stays here. But now if I extend this wall, see how it will continue to get thinner as we go along, or as we go down. See how that layer is basically going into a point. Now that's because this has been set up to be here at the base. Now if I change that measured at the base to measure at the bottom, so that's not the layer where it's hosted, but the actual bottom of the wall. So if I change that to the bottom and then hit apply, see now it will keep that thickness here at the bottom, and then it would basically become wider as we go up. And if I just measure that using the measure tool, you will see that here we have that kind of the structural layer thickness, which is around 152. and then everything else will become thicker. So it is a little bit kind of tricky to get a hang of it, but once you do, it's really easy and fun to use. Now, obviously, let's go back here. Let's change this to top. Okay. Oh, I don't know why it deleted it. Probably had some errors. Okay, let's try that again. So place another wall segment there. Perfect. Make it connected to level 2. Perfect. Okay, so now if I just select this again and make it tapered, let's give it, I don't know, 3 on the outside, 2 on the inside, and then let's go to the 3D view and let's try placing a door here. So that's going to be quite tricky. If you place a door, it's going to look like this. See how here in the section it looks kind of odd, and this is going to have a lot more problems than slanted walls, because usually families are not accustomed to these types of walls. So it's going to be really hard to get your families, or your doors and windows to fit in. You still have the ability, as you did with the slanted walls, the orientation, so it can be either vertical or it can be slanted alongside the exterior, which then looks like this, which is even worse, because see how the door kind of follows the exterior line, but then you get this little wall segment at the bottom because it kind of tilted, and you definitely don't want that, see? Or you can slant it along the interior, which again looks horrific. So doors and windows, they're going to be quite tricky. I suggest using just the wall opening tool and then modeling that door or window as an in-place component, because anything else, it's just going to look terrible. Okay, now let's move forward to slanted walls and the improvements made there. So if I just close this off, yeah, let me just select this and delete it. Okay, now I'm just going to go and again place just a simple wall segment here in the middle. Let's select that, go to properties, and let's make this a slanted wall. So this is a feature from the previous version of Revit, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But with the slanted walls, we did not have the ability to edit profile, and now, as you can see, we do. So if I just go here with a spline, I can pretty much create any type of a profile I want for this wall, and it's still going to work, even though it's a slanted wall. It looks kind of odd with this cut, but yeah. So slanted walls, they're going to work now with the edit profile feature. It's going to be available as well. Now let's take a look at the RPC family improvements. So if you're not familiar, RPC families are the families like the trees that we get. So here, you know, the trees, see it says RPC. So if I just place any tree here, just like this, it's going to look like a couple of tree silhouettes put together. But obviously when we switch to realistic, it's going to look, well, realistic. There we go. So if we kind of orbit around, it's just kind of always oriented like that, and we have that nice little tree. Now the improvement to this type of a family, one is the fact that now you can categorize this as furniture. So here currently it says planting, but you can go into edit family and you can change that into furniture. Now out of the box, it doesn't look like much has changed. You still have just the main regular families. And if I just go here to component, yeah, the families that are available are just the regular ones, but where the improvements are kind of hidden is, if I just go back here to hidden line, is when you go here into edit type, here you have the render appearance, and here we have the class. Now if I switch that to automobiles, okay, we can see that we do have some improvements. So for example, if I just go with this Chevrolet pickup, and if I just click OK, obviously we have to change the height, so let's say that's 1800 millimeters, and hit apply. Okay, see, now we have that pickup. Now it does look kind of weird like this, but we can obviously switch that to realistic. Wait for a few moments. There we go. And now as we orbit around, it does look like it's 3D, so it is quite cool. Now also you do have the ability to change its color, which is something that I find quite fascinating. So if you select the family, remember how it's red, go here into edit type and then go to render appearance properties.
for this RPC family. Here you can actually change the car paint. So I can change it to something like blue. Click OK, OK, apply, OK. And we have, I don't know, it's like a bluish, purplish truck. But you can actually change that. And also, if I go here into Edit Type, you can switch. Here, as you can see, we have many categories, but we now do have furniture, and we do have some chairs here, which is kind of cool. So let's add that chair. Chairs are obviously a bit shorter. So if I hit Apply, okay, see, now it's a chair. And if we orbit around, looks like that. Now also, if I go here into Edit Type, go into Edit, see it has just a few more parameters here. And there are some kind of Orient to View parameters. And obviously, you can just go back here to Trees, General. And this one was, what was it? The Japanese Cherry. So let's see. Japanese Cherry. That's going to be hard to find. Japanese flowers. I don't know, let's go with maple for now. Okay, let's click OK and let's bring it back to 1450. And also here, if you go to Edit, you have the Lock View option, and then you can lock it in front, left, and so on. So it does have that ability as well. So now it has that locked view. So there we go. Those are some of the improvements to the RPC families. The quality is up, and then we also have some new families and new features. The next improvement that I want to talk about is going to be the new default color fill schemes. So as I've mentioned in the intro, these used to be horrible, they used to look horrible, and Autodesk decided to change that, thankfully. So now, as you can see here, I have just a simple kind of house with a few rooms, and if I were to go here to the Annotate tab, go to Color Fill panel, go to Color Fill Legend, let's place one here, and let's change it to Rooms. Yeah, let's go by name, because here we have each room has a different name. Click OK. And now, as you can see, when it calculates, it's going to look like this. So it does look a lot nicer. Now, obviously, the downside of having it look nicer is the fact that it can be a little bit difficult to read. So imagine if you have like a very large floor plan here with only 5 different colors. It's already difficult to kind of decipher between these two, room 2 and 3, and also room 4 and 5. It's kind of difficult to tell them apart. So imagine if you had like 20 different rooms, it would probably be a complete mess. So it does look a little bit nicer, but now we can understand a little bit better why they decided to go with such horrible colors in the first one, because they're easier to tell apart. This does look a lot nicer, but it's a lot harder to tell apart. So maybe it could work better for some student models, but for showing your client, it can be a little bit difficult. Perhaps it's a bit easier because even though these are quite similar, you at least know where to search for room 4 and 5, and then you can look at them both, and it's easier to differentiate by the name of the room. But just by colors themselves, it can be a little bit tricky. Now we're going to be taking a look at one of the kind of more amazing features for this update, and that is the native PDF exporter. So far, when you wanted to export a PDF out of Revit, what you had to do was to obviously create a sheet, as I did here, but then you would have to go to File, to Print, and then in the print menu, you would have to search for a PDF creator. I use Adobe PDF, but you would have to have something on your computer, and then you would use that. Now, that gave you all sorts of trouble. It would kind of stop, and then it wouldn't create that PDF, and so on. So with the latest version, there is a native PDF exporter, and now when you have a sheet or any other view that you want to export to PDF, it's as simple as going here to File, to Export, and here finally we have PDF. So you can create PDFs straight out of Revit without any help of external software. Now here the settings are quite simple and straightforward. Here we can either choose the current window, visible portion of current window, or selected views and sheets. Now here you would have to go to this little button and then select what you want to export. And now in this case, because I only have one sheet, I'm going to go with the current window. Then you have the export setup, which you can customize here, or you can save here. So if you have saved if you have saved some settings, you can search for them, or you can make some settings and then you can save them here. Now for the settings, here we have the file name, next we have the file location, so where you want to save it on your computer. I'm just going to go here on desktop. Next we have the paper size. Now this is really cool because it has use sheet size, which is quite amazing. So what this option does is it kind of scans the sheet size that you have, and it's just going to use that for exporting. You don't have to search for that sheet size here, which is, I think it's quite cool. It's a feature that has been missing for a long time, and finally we have it. Now, if you decide to go with something like this, then you have options to kind of center that or give it an offset from corner, which is really useful. Also, you have the option to either fit to page or zoom to. I like to go with zoom to 100. Also, you have the orientation. Obviously, that's grayed out when you use sheet size because your sheets are already set up in a certain orientation. And now keep in mind, if you're exporting multiple sheets, here you can check combine selected views and sheets into a single PDF file. So you can just export everything into a single PDF file with multiple pages, which is also really cool. Next, here we have the appearance, and also do you want to create the output using vector or raster processing, and also some of the functions that you already probably know about if you've ever printed or exported out of Revit. And once you're done, you just click export. Let's say it says, do you want to save this? I'm just going to say no. And we just wait for a few seconds, and that's it. It's done. You don't have to wait for that thing to kind of load for minutes and minutes at a time, and then sometimes it would kind of stop and just not do anything. So I think this is a really cool feature, and it's really quick and easy, and in the end you get your PDF. And here I can just open this up, and it's just going to open up my sheet. There we go. So we can export out of Revit really quickly. The next feature that we want to talk about is the ability to rotate tags. So if you go here to the Annotate tab, and if you place some tags here, so let's tag all, and I'm just going to go with door tags and window tags, and then hit apply. Okay, there we go. So once you place some tags here, you can actually rotate those. So if I make a selection like this of all of these tags, you will see that now in the properties, I have an option to add orientation, and it can either be horizontal or vertical or model, which I guess is according to model, but I haven't seen this work that well, so I prefer just setting it up here vertically or horizontally. And also keep in mind that here you have an angle function, so if you're not happy with this, you want to go crazy, you can always go with like 45. Perhaps you have a 45-degree wall or something like that. You can actually rotate these according to whatever you want to use. So there you go, just a quick little update, but really, really useful. Something else that's new when it comes to tags is the multi-leader tag. So when you go here to the Annotate tab, and let's place just one tag. So I'm just going to place a tag on this window. Now keep in mind that I've turned on the leader function. You can do it either here or here, and then I'm just going to place that tag here. Now here we have the add remove host function, so I can just keep adding different elements to that tag. Now for that tag, if I just select the tag here, you will see in the properties panel it will say host count, and this one has 4 hosts. So you can then just place it just like so, and then obviously you can play around with these elbows, make it look a little bit nicer. There we go. Also, you can do this if you already have an existing tag, like in this room here. I can just take this tag, I can go to add remove hosts, and then I can add these two as well, turn on the leaders, because obviously it's not going to work if you're not adding leaders. If it's just sitting in the middle of the room, it might look odd. So there you go, you can just add multi-leader tags just like this. So it's really, really useful when it comes to tagging multiple elements of the same category. Now let's take a look at an update to the dimension tool. So for dimensions, you've always had the ability to select the dimension, double click on the number, or just click on the number, and then you get the dimension text. Now here in the text fields, you can add a prefix and a suffix to your value, which is really useful. The problem with this is if I just type in here A and B, apply, okay, it's only going to apply that to this one dimension. But let's say that you want to add a suffix to all, and a prefix, or either one or the other or both, to all of the dimensions. Well, now in the latest version of Revit, we do have that ability. Just by selecting the dimension, we actually have a type parameter for a prefix and a suffix. So if you go here into Edit Type, and then if you scroll down to Primary Units, here, as you can see, you have that dimension prefix and suffix. So I can just type in here pre, and here, I don't know, suff. And then hit apply, okay, and as you can see, that will be applied. Now here, because we have added that A and B, so it included both prefixes and both suffixes, so it's a little bit odd on this one, but you get the point. It is a really useful addition. The next new feature is show wall core only. So this is quite interesting. In some cases, you might find yourself in a situation where you don't want to show all layers of your walls and you just want to show kind of the main structure, just the core of the walls. Now in the latest version, if I just go here to the properties panel and go to visibility graphics overrides, go into edit there, search down for walls, here we go, expand that. Here we have the non-core layers, and it's actually something that we can just check off. Hit apply, okay. And now, as you can see, it's only going to keep the cores of the wall. If I go to thin lines, there we go. So it's just going to keep basically one layer, the core layer of each wall. Now keep in mind that obviously this is something that you control through the structure. So if you select any of the additional layers and move them down or up into the core layer, that layer then will be added. So see, now here we have that plywood layer because it has been added to the core. This is what that looks like. So it's just something that can be useful if you just want to show kind of the bare bones of the building. I think it's a really useful function. The next new feature is the spot slope on ramps. So here, as you can see, I have a couple of ramps. This is what they look like in 3D view. And we can actually create spot slopes and place them on these ramps to inform us of the slope of the ramps. So I can just go here to the Entity tab, go to Spot Slope, and now, as you can see, it can be placed on ramps. So I can place it like this on regular ones, and then also on curved ramps. Obviously, you can select the slope arrow, go into Edit Type, and then you can change them for the slope direction to go down or up. Now, as you can see, they're kind of pointing up, so you can play around with that if you want. I'm just going to go back to down here. Okay, now this works both in the floor plan view, also it works in the 3D view, but obviously you have to do it. You have to do it a couple of times, or you have to do it for each one. It's not like that if you place a dimension, it's going to stay. It's going to appear in all views. Dimensions are by default view specific, so they're only going to appear where you place them. Now, also, if I create a section through this, just like so, if I create a section like that, I can open that up and I can place a spot slope here as well. So I can just come in here and then place that. There we go. Now, one limitation that we have with this has to do with these curved ramps, and the problem with them is that the slope is never going to be the same on all points. So now, if the slope looks like this, it looks perfectly fine, but if I were to select it, go to Edit Type, and then if I were to go down here to Units Format, and just add a couple of additional decimal places, and click OK, apply, OK, now you'll notice that this one is at 488, this one is at 477, this one is at 483. So depending on where you place it, it's going to be different on a curved ramp, and then obviously on straight ramps, it's always going to report the same angle, and the same thing goes for the section. It doesn't matter where it is. Now let's take a look at some of the updates for schedules. Now this is my second project in my beginner to intermediate level course, and I'm just going to be using this project in order to create a schedule. Now the schedule is going to be for the curtain wall panels. So for all of these panels, as you can see, we have many different panels. So let's create a schedule for those. So I'm just going to go here to the project browser, scroll down, find schedules, right click and use schedule quantities, and then I'm just going to scroll down and scroll up. So here we should have curtain wall panels. Here we go, curtain panels. Click OK, and I'm going to include an area, family, and type, or well, let's just use the family as well. Perhaps separate those. And then here type, and then also, I don't know, like width and height. Here we go. Okay, and let's move the area down. Okay, and let's now click OK, and we're going to create that schedule. Now for this schedule, the first thing that I want to show you, the first update, is here in the filters. So when you open up filters and schedules, now you can actually filter by family and type. So this wasn't available previously, but now you can actually do that. So it's really nice that you can use even those parameters. It can be really useful. It did kind of had a need for some workarounds previously, but now as we have this, it is going to make filtering your schedules a lot easier. Now the next solution, and this is, or the next update, and this is really big, I really like this, it has to do with these long schedules. So see, here we have just a huge schedule, and if we were to place this on one sheet, it would probably take up a whole sheet, and we would probably be left with some additional schedule that just doesn't fit. Well, now we have the ability to split a schedule on multiple sheets. So here you will notice that we have a panel here on the modify schedule quantities. It says split in place. So what this does is it allows you to place your schedules on multiple sheets. So it would split one schedule across multiple sheets. Now here, if I go to sheets, I have this sheet project 1, this one too. So this is the ground level, and then I have 2 additional sheets here. Now let's say I want to place my schedule on these sheets, and I want to place it across all 4 sheets. I can do that. I can simply go here into split in place. Click, and then in this window what you have to do is specify the sheets on which you want to place your schedule. Now once you do that, it's going to display all of the possible sheets. Here on height on sheets, it's going to show you or display the height of each column of the schedule, or each height of the schedule. So here you have a couple of options, either split evenly, so just by 4 divided by 4, or you can do a custom split. Now here it's going to report a height. Now if you split it evenly, the height is, well, just the even 39 centimeters, but if you were to go with custom, you can actually specify this. So you can say, I don't want my schedule to be 39, I want it to be 40, and then the last one obviously is going to be shorter. I'm just going to be using split evenly on this one. So you just specify that, you specify the sheets, you specify the split method, as well as the height, and then you go to split in place. Now what this does is it only opens up your first sheet, and then here you can specify the position, and what that's going to do is as soon as you place it, see, just like that, it's going to immediately automatically place that same schedule in the same place on the rest of the sheets, and it's just going to measure from the top corner here, from the top left corner, it's going to measure how far right and how far down you go, and then it's going to use that as a kind of the method for placing the schedules on the rest of these sheets. Now if you were in a situation where where you have different sizes of sheets, well, in that case it would simply just place it kind of according to that position, the top left corner. And there you go. Those are all of the updates. I know this was a long video, and thank you so much if you have watched the entire video. Tell me what you like the most about the new features in Revit 2022. Are you happy with this? And what are some of the features that you're looking for when it comes to Revit? What do you think? What's missing? What would you like to see in the future? So please tell me that in the comment section below. As I said, if you're interested in my courses, you can find all of them on my website, balkanarchitect.com. It's going to be the first link in the description. And also my Revit project files are available on my Patreon page, which is my second link in the description. So check those out. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video, and I'll be back with another tutorial in a couple of days. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.